Nice. All right, welcome back. So today we are going to be talking about bridge jobs. We've done our grounding meditation. I'm going to share my bridge job story, explain more about what a bridge job is, and really how to find it through the lens of the North Node. And if you join during the meditation, make sure you have your free or expanded career astrology report, something to take notes on. Okay, so let's get started with my story. So, I actually didn't know I took a bridge job until like much later. So, before I started this business, which at this point is about like 7 years ago, I was in an e-commerce business. And this e-commerce business that I started with some friends was really the bridge job. It was a bridge job because prior to that e-commerce company, I had worked a corporate job, working in social media, like marketing, communications. I worked for Hilton. I worked for Publicis Group, managing a lot of different types of consumer and hospitality, tourism accounts. And I realized, like right at the cusp of my Saturn return, which happens in your late 20s, early 30s, huge moment of existentialism and career pivots, that it just no longer was a good fit. And so I had moved back to the US during my Saturn return after working abroad, and I started to work at this e-commerce company, essentially being an entrepreneur full time. And I knew my intuition told me that it wasn't gonna be a place that I stayed at forever, and it wasn't an idea that I was crazy about, but somehow it just felt right. And looking back, I realized it was because I needed to get more comfortable with entrepreneurial ventures and starting my own thing. And what does it mean to start your own thing? I needed to understand the difference between something that was like, oh yeah, this is a good idea, but it wasn't a good and aligned idea to my values and what I wanted to spend my time. But in this job that I had, it was really helpful because I came in, I did a lot of the marketing work, but then I transitioned into also handling the operations. So I came in with a strength and I learned a lot of different things. And I also learned how to create products instead of services because I've always been in the service industry and I continue to be in the service industry even now. And I learned how to make like all these different types of like customizable products, like Yeti tumblers and cookie cutters and like keychains, like all these things that are really great with like gifting. And it was just never a skill that I had. And from this job that really combined my marketing expertise, the need to kind of figure out how do we brand, how do we market, how do we launch these different shops and different products. It was also the creation of these products as well, which really allowed me to tap into my creativity, my imagination, and to strengthen some other areas of my skill set that weren't like activated when I was working in a service-oriented business. But like I said, 7 years ago, I realized, this was probably 7 to 8 years ago, I realized that it wasn't going to be something that I could do any longer because I had spent about almost 3 years at this e-commerce company. And so during that time, I really learned how to listen to my intuition, which is why many years ago I took the leap of faith to start this company, Woo Woo Company, which then eventually led to Saturn, which is where pretty much I would think all of you have gotten your free career astrology report from yoursaturn.com. So that's like a little bit about my story and also this like bridge job that I had. So a bridge job really is just getting you from, where you are to where you want to be. And let's say for the example of entrepreneurship, it can feel really daunting to do things on your own, even if it's something that you have done for others in a group setting, in a corporate setting for over a decade. Because something just happens when you kind of go off on your own. It's like you are in charge of like really doing like everything. Even if you have like a partner, it's like a lot less people to work with than before. And what it really is it's a method, it's a job that allows you to maintain a nervous system that is regulated. But also at the same time, I know some of you or probably like I can't stay in this job anymore. I just need to quit and kind of just like free fall and figure out like, what's the best next thing for me. And that's also a way to do it as well. Actually, that's how I've always done it. But I always recommend to clients like, if you can find a bridge job because it can feel very jarring and dysregulating to not have a steady paycheck, to not have like your own like routine as you figure things out. So it's nice to kind of do things in a more piecemeal, like broken down, like small, like bite-size ways. So a job that gets you from where you are to where you want to be. So if you want to dive into entrepreneurship, but you're like, I have no idea like how to do it, how to start, what my day would be like, what are some of the pressures that I would have to deal with, you can go to a smaller business, a startup, or do some consulting work for like a small business, for someone who like wants to start their own business, and that can give you a taste of what it would be like if you had to do things on your own. Another way would be to move into a company where you're able to start a department or open up an office with the support of a larger organization. So, touching upon some things that are stretchy for you, move you out of your comfort zone, but you have kind of like a support system and resources to help you. All right, so how do you find a bridge job? That leads us to the North Node. I am obsessed with the North Node. If this is not your first workshop with me, like I'm pretty much always talking about the North Node because I think it's very underrated. When it comes to astrology, a lot of times people are talking about the midheaven. There's like so many different ways to talk about ideal jobs and ideal careers and businesses to start. But what I find to be the easiest place to kind of jump off is the North Node. Because the North Node can feel really eye-opening and super jarring. A lot of times, it is something that we feel uncomfortable with. So when you are first introduced to the North Node, it really like um, allows you to be like very curious. It sparks a lot of curiosity because you're like, wait, I've never thought of myself in this way. Like this is kind of what I'm meant to be learning. This is giving me some insights into, jobs that might like really light me up. I've never really thought about it. It's really about expansion. The North Node talks about how to step into your zone of genius, how to stretch outside of your comfort zones. In some ways, it's about destiny, it's about learning, it's about life lessons, and it's very much so about like higher self connection too. The opposite of a north node is the south node. The south node is about past lives, karma, skills that you're really good at. But the south node also tells you these two things. One, a core part of who you are. I truly believe the south node is at the core of who you are. Then it's like your moon sign, your sun sign, your rising, and all the other planets kind of like circling around it. It also tells you where you are stuck in your career. So if you're on this call or listening to the replay and you feel stuck, you feel like you're always getting the same types of jobs or the same types of opportunities always flow to you very naturally, but they feel unfulfilled, it is most likely it is about like the majority focused on your south node skills. These are things that we're just naturally good at, we naturally gravitate to, but it's not something we want to have like the focus on in this lifetime. These skills, these experiences, yes, are going to help you, but they're going to help you as you move more towards the north node, the sign your north node is in. Okay, I think we had some questions in here or comments. Let me see. Alyssa's excited to learn about bridge jobs, trying to start my wellness business as a sound facilitator, Reiki practitioner, yoga instructor, trying my best to leave fashion corporate, which doesn't feel aligned. Really happy for you, Alyssa. Desiree say I'm also trying to leave my corporate job while I'm ready to start my coaching business. I love that. Shali says coaching here as well. Amazing. Okay. Any questions? You know what to do. Drop it into the chat. So I'll give you an example, the North Node and the South Node. And actually, the North Node is in Pisces right now, and the South Node is in Virgo. So collectively, we're kind of exploring these themes like right now. So let's say you have a North Node in Pisces and a South Node in Virgo. And I know some of you don't have your expanded reports. Don't worry. I'm going to go into each of the North Node signs as well as how to find your South Node. So let's say you have your North Node in Pisces and your South Node in Virgo. Most likely with the South Node in Virgo, you have always been in maybe like a product or project management role, kind of solving a lot of problems in an organization. People come to you because you are reliable. You are someone they're like, oh yeah, so and so, they're going to be able to fix these problems. Or like, oh, you need something done, like just give it to this person. So you kind of really get stuck in like the back ends and like operations behind the scenes, but really, in this lifetime, you're stepping into a much more intuitive, artistic, like feminine way of being. So, this like Virgo is a very control-oriented sign, likes to be very like by the books and the like rules, and like kind of like a plan and but an action plan and kind of things to do. And then the North Node in Pisces, like a Pisces sign, is very kind of like, let's just see what happens. Like, let's just see, like, how do I feel today? Less about having like routines and rituals and more about like flowing and seeing and kind of like reading more of the energy. And if you have a North Node in Pisces, that means you're stepping more into an intuition-led life versus something that is purely just practical and logic-based. Okay, so let's talk about opposite signs. So if your North Node is in Libra, that means your South Node is in Aries. Let's say your North Node is in Sagittarius, that means your South Node is in Gemini. And like if you have your North Node in Cancer, then your South Node is in Capricorn. So take a moment to identify your North and South nodes. For those who have their expanded report, it is in your report. And those who don't, you can just look at chart properties and you'll see your North Node sign in the chart properties. Laura has North Node in Aries in the 10th house. That means you have a South Node in Libra. So something to note is anybody with a North Node in Aries or a North Node in Libra, you've just experienced from 2022 to 2024 a lot of transformation, a lot of change related to identity, boundaries, relationships. Like it's totally been like the self versus like others and understanding yourself to understand how you can show up better in your relationships. All right, so Kitty has North Node in Scorpio, so that means your South Node is going to be in Taurus, Dara North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo, Desiree North Node in Cancer, South Node in Capricorn, North Node in Taurus for Jenna, so South Node in Scorpio. Aisha North Node in Taurus, so South Node in Scorpio. Ireland has North Node in Libra, so South Node in Aries. Okay, let's can't read all of them. We gotta we gotta go on to the next slide. But if you can't figure out your South Node or you're a little confused, just let me know. Because as you can see, this is not a basic like free astrology workshop. We really dive into things. Okay, so let's talk about your placements. Again, we're focused on your North Node, but all of these signs, like what I'm sharing for each of the signs, can be applied to like your sun sign, your moon sign, but we're focused on the North Node. So North Node in fire signs. So North Node in Aries, North Node in Leo, and North Node in Sagittarius. The thing that fire signs have in common when they are in the North Node is that you are learning in this lifetime to step more into like your power, to be more independent, to be even more creative. A North Node in Aries is stepping into their visionary nature, being a leader, being like a CEO, could deal with something related to military or fitness or anything that is like kind of quote unquote risky. But Northern Aries, a lot of times I see they are going to be starting businesses. A North Node in Leo, most likely you are like a little bit hesitant in standing and being in the limelight and having attention. And in this lifetime, you're really learning how to just put yourself out there. So, you know, like potential like jobs and industries that could work well at being an actor, a performer, being a creative, a coach, but also sales and marketing as well. North Node in Sagittarius. Every time I see a North Node in Sagittarius, they are meant to be traveling. They most likely have left like their like very close-knit community or family or small town, and they are feeling very adventurous and like wanting to see the world and explore. They're naturally very good communicators, so they're working on strengthening their communication even more. And there's like a bit of an academic component to a Northern Sagittarius where they're teaching and doing a lot of deep learning. Okay, now we have North Node in Earth signs. North Node in Taurus, North Node in Virgo, North Node in Capricorn. When you have a North Node in an Earth sign, it means in this lifetime you are learning how to ground your ideas into reality. You're trying to be more of this world, being more connected to your body, because you're naturally very intuitive, very imaginative, and also very feeling based. So it's like, how do you manage your emotions and how do you land all of your great ideas and your imaginative nature into something tangible in this world? So Northern and Taurus could be working in luxury goods, could be a chef, could be in like, working in food and beverage or finance. They're really learning how to feel more stable from the inside out. Northern and Virgo is learning how to be more disciplined and systems oriented. So, working in operations, being a virtual assistant, logistics, product or project manager will feel very kind of expansive, a little scary, but in a good way. Northern and Capricorn is another sign that is very likely to start their own business. They're learning to focus on themselves because naturally they're always focusing on those around them, their family, their chosen family, being very caring, very focused on others. But it's like, okay, what do I want to create in this lifetime? What type of legacy do I want to leave behind? Next up, we have North Node in air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. A North Node in Gemini is really kind of moving from like big picture, very strategic, very global view into something that is much more like local community oriented and sharing their knowledge in more digestible ways. A North Node in Gemini could be working in media, in PR, could be a content creator, could be a coach. All of these signs are quite social, with the exception, I like to say, Aquarius is the unsocial social sign. So they're social, but they also need a lot of time alone. North Node in Libra is learning how to be in relationships, in partnership, how to collaborate with others, working in events, being a lawyer, being a diplomat, like hosting networking things, like collaborating with people. Could also be like beauty and fashion. Those are things related to Libra as well. But the big lesson in this lifetime is really to be learning how to work with others and knowing that. Hyper independence is not the way to go. And then we have a North Node in Aquarius. In this lifetime, they're focusing on the collective and really embracing the unique side of who they are. North Node in Aquarius is very innovative, very forward and future focused, and oftentimes like really ahead of the trends. They're also very good teachers and engineers, anything related to STEM. Then finally, we have our North Node in water signs. North Node in Cancer, North Node in Scorpio, North Node in Pisces. A North Node in Cancer, ironically, is focusing less on working, finding more work-life balance because their South Node is in Capricorn. So they're probably in past lives and also very familiar with just working all the time, but they're looking to find more work-life balance. And oftentimes I see with the North Node in Cancer, they might be like starting a business with family. That's like a big thing. Or doing something that is like very family oriented, maybe with kids, maybe with like therapy work, creating healing spaces, because all water signs are very creative, very imaginative, and very feeling based. A North Node in Scorpio is learning how to harness their emotions. Possible industries are like finance, a researcher, an investigator. They're very data driven. They are also learning how to tap into their very powerful, intuitive, and psychic nature. And then we have Northern and Pisces. I've shared an example already. They're learning like what it means to be creative, to be the artist, to be the musician, to be psychic, to step into a flow and intuitive state. All right, let me see. Shall I says some apps say the North Node in Sagittarius, but the port that I have says North Node in Capricorn. House is the same. That means like you're right on the cusp. So depending on the system that the app or the website is using, it's like right on the edge. So you can actually read for both. Okay, let's see. Dara, I'll talk about the significance of like the house for the North Node later. Okay. So here's a list just to make it really easy so you can identify the North Node. Let's say it's in Aries, and the South Node is in Libra, and just write it down in your notebook. You want to write down kind of like these words associated with your North Node and your South Node. So again, the North Node is kind of like where we're going in this lifetime, and the South Node are the skills we're using to help us to get to that North Node, that North Star. Now, some of you may be thinking like, oh, I actually like don't really relate to like my North Node at all. That's very normal. Some people feel like it's hard to relate to it. I know that I did. And if you sit with it and it still is like a little bit confusing, you know, the way that I like do these workshops, like we're just focused on one thing, but your birth chart is very multifaceted. There's so much that goes into, what would be a good job, a good business to start for you. So you just probably have some other dominant energies present. Maybe there's like a lot of like Scorpio energy or Leo energy that you don't really see, obviously, which is kind of affecting how your North Node sits and resonates with you. And then I also have a couple um, like characteristics and like kind of values related to each of the signs here too. Just a different way of understanding the sign and understanding like your North Node or your South Node. Okay. So, how does the North Node manifest in your life? It manifests in two ways. It could be the job that you're directly working in, or like the business that you're starting, or it could be the lessons or like character development that you are experiencing. So, you're working on embodying the characteristics of your North Node sign. And it could be a combination of both of these as well. Okay, and I wanted to mention again that the North Node, I believe, is very much so a connection to the higher self and the embodiment of the higher self, like in this lifetime. So, like, let's say your North Node is in Leo, but you don't have any other Leo placements, you don't have any planets in the fifth house, and you start like thinking and setting intentions of like, okay, if I was acting like a Leo, like what would I do? What would my day be like? How would I show up? How would I handle conflict? How would I handle like good news, bad news? How would I dress? What would I eat? Like, how would I like view myself? It's a really powerful way to step into this version of yourself to an extent that you are becoming. And it's an exercise that I really recommend to all of my clients to test out, to try out, so that you can connect with this sign more and start to like step into the shoes of like your future self slash your higher self. And then I wanted to quickly touch upon entrepreneurship placements because I know a bunch of you have said that you're looking to start your own business. And honestly, as we kind of like move through these next like 6 months, like with the north node in Pisces and the south node in Virgo, and we just finished back-to-back new moons in Virgo, there's going to be so many changes to work. And in my newsletter that I just shared like a couple days ago, I really believe we're moving into that multi-hyphenate space and there's going to be more and more people who start their own businesses or side hustles, just finding ways to diversify income so they feel empowered and feel like they're not relying on any external sources for money, for validation, and for stability. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but I thought it would be helpful just to share. Really, the big signs are going to be Capricorn, Scorpio, and Aries. Those are just like naturally going to really care about like entrepreneurship, starting their own thing. But also certain Aquarius placements and Sagittarius placements may feel called to this as well because those two signs really value freedom and autonomy as well. If you're reading this list and you're like, wait, but I don't have any of these or only one of these, like, again, not an exhaustive list, just some things I've seen like throughout my readings. I actually believe everybody has the ability to be entrepreneurial because to be entrepreneurial is to be creative. And as human beings, we are naturally creative. Okay, so finding your bridge job, what does that look like? So it's about combining the two elements, the north node and the south node. That's why I had you write down from the list your north node placement and your south node placement. So here's another example for a north node in Pisces. So it could be working at a startup where you explore your creativity, but also add value by building a department or creating structure. That's what I did. It could be consulting businesses, creating templates and ways to organize your life to sell it to others. It could be creating like, workbooks as well. It could be wellness coaching. It could be someone who comes in and creates like systems and operationally streamlines a business or provides like strategy. Laura says Northern Aries in the 10th house, her plans in the 10th house, including Saturn, very afraid of being an entrepreneur, lack of confidence. So when Saturn is in the like same house as your North Node, Saturn is a planet of responsibility, about discipline, about hard work. And so I'm curious to know like what your Chiron placement is because Chiron gives you some insights to like wounds and fears that you hold in your life. But with so many planets in your 10th house, Laura, it means that, career is a really big focus and specifically how to take risks. Oh, yeah. So you have kind of like a big 10th house then. So it's like you feeling confident and doing your own thing. A Northern Aries, it's forcing you to be more confident, to be more visionary, and trust in yourself. And because Laura has a Chiron in Pisces in the 10th house, that means she doesn't really trust her intuition when it comes to career and when it comes to starting a business. So maybe you have some intuitive hits of like, oh, I should create X, Y, and Z, but then you question yourself. But the important thing is, and the good thing is that when you know this is part of your pattern, this is part of who you are, it gives you a lot of power to step out of it. So it's kind of like you're allergic to like eggs. So don't eat eggs. So you know that you have a hard time trusting yourself. Do something every day that strengthens the muscle of trusting yourself and also your intuition. And try to do one scary thing every day. Do something new every day. I used to do this thing when I used to work in an office like back when I lived abroad. I know it might sound a little silly, but I would do something different every single day. I like on the way to work. I would go to a new coffee shop, I would walk a different route. Like I would just try to do something different so it wasn't kind of like the same routine every single day. Because I don't know, back then I was just like, I think it's probably good to just like kind of like deal with change in like small ways. Okay. We have some questions here. Desiree says, what if my current job and all work experience has only been in the Southwood area? That is so normal. It is so normal. I don't have experience in the Northwood area, which makes it so difficult. So it's about you starting and exploring this area. And never has it been so easy to start your own business, to be a quote unquote expert in any area. All you need to do is study, be earnest, have your own opinion and share about it on Substack, on social media, creating like reports, putting it, on YouTube, like sharing, like there's so many ways to share. And I think that sometimes we feel like, oh, to be an expert or to be respected in our line of work requires years and years of experience. It doesn't. And there's a lot that intuition plays into it as well. And intuition knows no bounds in terms of age, experience. Like sometimes intuitively, like, you're just called to something and you use all of your South Node like skills to really help you. Katie says, does having Scorpio North Node first house mean that there would be specific topics to investigate or research? Do certain signs direct us to the type of business we'd be drawn to? So, with a North Node in Scorpio in the first house, that means you're actually doing a lot of identity work and finding ways to empower yourself. So, through this work that you are doing yourself, you could find that you could coach someone through it, like how to go through a dark night of the soul, how to go through transformation, how to be more comfortable with change. You could also work in a company or start a company that's very focused on, um, transformation and change in an organization. It could deal with like transformational leadership, like how to be a better leader, how to understand yourself more so that you can be a better servant leader, like a lot of different things. Yeah, you're welcome, Laura. Okay. So again, I'm sharing the list here. And then the list of like characteristics in case like you feel like you have more of like character development. So the houses play an important role in understanding like your bridge job as well. But before we get to it, I just want to pause and have you just write a list of all the different jobs like your north node would do, and then a list of all the jobs that would fit your south node, and start to weave them two together to see, what are some things you can do to move from the south node to the north node. As an example, if your north node is in Aries, that means your south node is in Libra. So you are really good at working with others and collaborating, but you're supposed to really learn more about how to take more of a leadership role. So in your current work or in a new job or even in a side hustle, you could focus on an idea, a direction that you specifically have, and bringing people together kind of like underneath you, like you're leading the way, instead of kind of getting everyone's opinions and kind of delegating and saying like we should do this, like or we should do that, and just finding more ways to step into leadership, even if it feels uncomfortable, and feeling comfortable with like, hey, I have this idea and it's going to be something that I want to share with others. Let's see. North node in Capricorn example. That means your south node is in Cancer. So you are most likely very used to caring for others, working in industries related to cancer. So it could be hospitality, healthcare, education, childcare, therapy work, healing work. And in this lifetime, like focusing less on caring for others and focusing on what matters to you and what is the thing that you want to leave behind as a legacy. So it's like really focusing on the individual. And it really could be, let's say, starting like a business that you already feel naturally drawn to. But it could be consulting work. So you could do consulting work for like healthcare or insurances, be like early education consultant, something like that, or even open up a school. Okay, some questions. Liz says, what about if you're already working a job in your North Node? North Node in Capricorn in the 12th house, and I've been planning allocation analysis for 5 years, but it's so draining. So this is a good kind of segue into the houses. So North Node in Capricorn in the 12th house actually also means that, you could be doing something related to music, entertainment, something that's spiritual, something that is intuition led or creative, because the 12th house is all about those things. So like it could also like be like you starting a consulting business on your skills around like planning and like allocation or finance or strategy, whatever it is that you do. It can sometimes just be a very subtle shift that makes a huge difference. Jaleesa says, I'm not really interested in being an entrepreneur. North requires in the fourth house, but I've also had a lot of tension being in corporate spaces. I've mostly worked in health tech. Makes sense. North Node in Aquarius and fourth house. Aquarius loves innovation, loves technology. Fourth house deals with like healthcare and insurance and like being service oriented, early education. I think you have a lot of tension being in corporate spaces because a Northern Aquarius needs a lot of autonomy. I don't know the rest of your chart. But perhaps like you're underappreciated. So it's like sometimes it's about finding a different space. It could be a smaller organization. It could be one that just gives you more resources. And I would be curious to know, Jaleesa, if you also have some Scorpio placements. Oftentimes I see if Scorpio comes up in your big three or a couple times like in your chart and other placements, it just can be really, oh, I mean, look, Jaleesa's a Scorpio rising. So there's a lot of jealousy at work for my Scorpio placements, and you can oftentimes be misunderstood, and also people can like sabotage you because I find that Scorpios are very good at what they do. They're also like truth tellers and truth seekers, and sometimes people can't handle the truth. So you want to go to the places where people want to hear the truth. They actually want to improve. It just sounds like working where you are, it actually is not as innovative as it sounds like as they say that the company is. And you're just like, wait, but you were always saying and like, like internal and external communication that we're always pushing the envelope for innovation, but we're kind of just saying that we're innovative, like kind of like slapping on a label and it's superficially innovative, but it's not. Or we're doing like good, but we're actually treating people terribly. So it's about alignment and it's also about you being honest and saying, like, okay, I really just don't think this company is walking the talk. Jenna says, I have a North Node in Taurus and a South Node in Scorpio. Both, yes, both mention like finance. It's like kind of can be a subtle shift. Also dealing with empowerment. But you would look at your house to see some more insight. So let's go to the houses. So here are the houses. They move this way, like counterclockwise. The first house all the way to the 12th house, and each house represents a specific area of your life. Each of the houses are traditionally ruled by a sign as well. The first house, as an example, is ruled by Aries. It's also your rising sign. Your first house will also give you insights to your rising sign. So this is what each of the houses mean. And then I'm going to have the next slide is going to be industries for each of the houses. So the planets, and we can count like the North Node as a planet, even though it's a point, as like what is happening. The sign is how it is happening. And then the house is where it is happening. So the north node tells us what is happening. The what is like how you can feel expansive, where you're going to feel fulfilled, how you're going to grow. The sign tells you how it's happening. Let's say, your north node is in Aries. So the way that you're finding more fulfillment is stepping into a place where you have more boundaries, where you feel more confident, where you step into leadership roles. And then where is it happening? Could be in the third house. You're learning how to communicate more, to stand up for yourself, for self-advocacy. I actually have a client who has that exact placement. Okay, some questions here. Zuri says, I have a northern in Pisces, southern in Virgo, and I've been working in science, but also doing art music coaching. Yes, I love that for you. Wonderful. Yes. Mary, I feel like I'm supposed to get married, not work. North Node in Cancer in the seventh house is a specific placement that could say that yes, you can like get married and work, but you could be managing a lot of the household assets. And you could also be working in like real estate, things related to the home. It could be like, let's say you buy a lot of investment properties, you're working with like close relationships, whether it's like your significant other, or other people. It could also look like doing healing work for people to improve their relationships around like dating or like business stuff, like business collaborators and relationships. But yes, that is one interpretation to get married and not work. I support that as well. Okay, so this next slide I think is going to be really helpful as well. Shadma says I have a stellium in the eighth house, including my Venus. Should I focus on that house as well? So your stelliums also are really helpful too. And in the eighth house, it's ruled by Scorpio. So you may find yourself being really drawn to consulting. And yeah, that's going to be like another energy that is very present that could come up in like what you do. So again, astrology is very nuanced. I try to make it like as easy but as authentic as much as possible. So when you look at the house, you can see kind of like where you're going to be doing some of this work. What is the industry going to look like? At the fifth house, it could be entertainment, acting, music, art, design, sports, dating, coaching, gaming, sales, and marketing. I try to get like as many examples as possible, but have it not be so um like confusing as well. So when you take your north node and your south node and you can mix the houses up to also give you some insights to what this bridge job is going to look like, where it could be. So just take a moment to do that. And I cover a lot during these workshops, so I really recommend that you like do some of this like journaling and reflecting in the coming days and especially like over the weekend. And I'm actually hosting a group career astrology, career clarity reading tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific. So if you're interested, I'm gonna follow up in the replay email, but you can also DM me on Instagram as well. So anyone out there who feels like they're, in a moment of pivoting, a moment of transition, it's gonna be a really great resource to have. I'll have collective insights as well as individual insights too. Actually, I'll just like pop it in here. Hold on, let me just grab something. And then I'll go back to the slide. Mm, Is it? Okay, here it is. Okay, there we go. I put the group Career Clarity Astrology reading info into the chat. And I know that a lot of you probably use like ChatGPT or Gemini, but I would recommend that you try to brainstorm like by yourself first and to see like the potential jobs that you could have, bridge jobs that you could have before going into it, just because it just kind of prevents you from doing critical thinking and really being exploratory and having something coming from within of what would feel right. So before you go to any of those like large language models, like just sitting with yourself and being like, oh, okay, like how have I seen this played out like in my own life, in like, jobs and opportunities like my friends and my family have done, make it a kind of like a reflective process. And then if you afterwards feel like you want to get some more insights, you can go down the rabbit hole of any of those resources. So that was not only a lot of information about like where you're going in this lifetime, so the North Node, but also about like bridge jobs, so how to get from where you are today to kind of like that North Node, that North Star job. But I also have some extra journaling prompts here. Because it'll take you some more time. This like one workshop isn't going to give you like all the answers. I invite you to come back to your notes and I'll send out the replay for this as well. And you can take some time in the coming days to really journal. There's going to be a lot of things happening over the next like few weeks and the next like 6 months as it relates to like how we work and our relationship to work as well. So you may find yourself like just kind of changing how you view work and the relationship that you have like with your quote unquote 9 to 5, whether you're working for someone else or operating your own business. Oh, I did not finish typing the last question. I was like, what are some potential bridge jobs that would be a good fit for you? But we're doing that already. All right, that is all I have for you today. If you haven't gotten your expanded career astrology report, you can still get it. You can still use the discount code that you've gotten. It's sitting in your inbox. You can connect with me for a one-on-one career astrology reading. And then I can also see you in the group Career Clarity Astrology reading tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific. I hope that this was helpful. I know there's a lot of information, but just let yourself sit with it. All right, and I will follow up with the replay today. Any questions, email me. You can DM me as well. And I know that the next right job is around the corner for you, so stay positive, stay open, and stay curious. Okay, all right, friends. Thank you so much for coming today, and I will see you at the next workshop in October. I think I'm going to do one that's specifically around like how to start your business or how to find like your business idea, something like business related. So that's what will come up in October. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and an even better rest of your week. All right, bye everyone.